Santiago Canyon College is an innovative learning community in Orange, California, with more than 260 certificate and degree programs. Santiago Canyon College is a proud sponsor of community programming and OC World.
OC World is made possible by the generous contributions of Marisla Foundation, Keith and Judy Swain Family Foundation, Wells Fargo Bank, the University of California, Irvine, Orange County Community Foundation, Farmers and Merchants Bank, and viewers like you. Thank you.
Orange County has an incredible treasure. It is what's known as the Cleveland National Forest. And we are at the site of the Helena Modjeska home, also known as Arden, which is maintained by the County of Orange. And there's so much history up in the Santa Ana Mountains that, you and I are going to touch on that today. We're going to talk about Arden. We're going to talk about the Wild West and how a sheriff was murdered not too far from here and how the perpetrator, the gang leader, was chased right up the hill right in front of us, called Flores Peak. We've got mines, we've got grizzlies.
It's good. It's a great episode. And again, for anybody that's never been, Helena Modjeska, obviously, great Shakespearean actress, built her home here in the late 1800s. But coming up here, whenever we come up here, it is stepping back into time. It really is like time travel. It feels up here probably much like it did when she lived here. There is no setting for me in Orange County like this. Modjeska Home, of course, one of the great landmarks in Southern California. But for people that haven't been up here, I'm a little bit lost in this space. Whenever I come up here, it's like going back 150 years. It is still up here. We're listening to the birds. This is so remote and beautiful and secluded. And it's unlike any place else in Orange County where we are right now in front of this house. What do you think? I mean, how do you imagine moving here in the late 1800s? That had to be, it was like going off the face of the earth for Modjeska. I mean, it just, to me, even today, but more than 125 years ago, it really had to be, again, you were separated from everything. Los Angeles would have been a couple of days away at that point by horse. So this is stepping back into an era of Southern California history that's very unique, very beautiful physically, and really historic.
A lot of Orange Countyans purchase retreats. A lot of them in the desert.
Yeah.
A lot of them will buy cabins in Lake Arrowhead or Big Bear. But this was Helena Modjeska's retreat. And it was sort of like, I would equate it with the Hearst Castle of Orange County.
Yes.
So when you drive up Modjeska Canyon Road, you see olive trees. So they had an olive grove. And then to mark her house, they put up these palm trees, which I think at the time, there's no palm trees here. So so she had her way of identifying
just
her location.
Commingled with native California live oak is so interesting, just visually here. I know you're going to have a conversation here in a little while with one of the former owners of the property. I'm going to go off. We're right near a place called Silverado Canyon, which has its own great historic sites and things. I'm going to go gather and tell some stories over there while you kind of hold the fort here, have a great conversation with the former owner. Who are you going to be talking to?
Dan Walker. The Walker family started the second, what is now known as Farmers and Merchants Bank. It's a bank that has been servicing LA, Long Beach, Orange County for 4 generations, over 100 years. Very rare to see any kind of business institution last that long. But grandfather bought this facility. It was Modjeska, for health reasons, decided to move to Balboa Island, where she passed away. It was like a bed and breakfast for a little while, but then the Walker family purchased it, and it was their retreat for 63 years, and then they would sell it to the county, restrict the deed just for historical purposes. So this is a California State Historical Landmark, but it's also a United States National Landmark as well, and it's been preserved thanks to the Walker family, thanks to the County of Orange.
I love Silverado Canyon. If you've never driven up here, to me it's always sort of like, it's kind of like the Topanga Canyon of Orange County. Years ago, my son and I would go fossil digging up in the hills. It used to be underwater tens of millions of years ago. You can find shark's teeth up there, all kinds of marine fossils. But I'm standing by a plaque here at the Silverado Post Office, and this plaque is fascinating. It details the story. It goes back to 1908, when it marks the death of the California grizzly. Great storytelling here on this plaque of which my co-host John Morlock was here for the unveiling back in 2012. But as it describes at the turn of the century, beekeeping was an important local industry, providing not only product but also pollination service for area crops. Starting in 1903, it became evident that the marauding habits of at least one bear was disturbing the hives, the beehives. With their livelihood threatened, the county game warden, Ed Atkinson, a beekeeper himself, organized a hunting party to track down the suspect. January 5th, 1908, their dogs picked up the scent of a bear, and so began a 5-mile chase through the mountains. Eventually, they caught up with a grizzly bear in a small canyon near Chabuca Canyon, not too far from here. Although the bear fought desperately to escape, the dogs and hunters prevailed. Finally, 3 shots from Warden Atkinson ended a lineage dating back to a time preceding even the earliest native peoples of the Southwest. The bear was originally mistaken for a black bear, but it was actually a grizzly. Later, the remains were shipped to the Smithsonian Institution in Washington for study and preservation, and it was the Smithsonian that positively ID'd the bear as an elderly grizzly. So again, Orange County 100 years ago was a very different place. Silverado Canyon is a very different place that brings you back. I think we may go have lunch at the Silverado Cafe just across the street. If you ever have a chance to come up here in the mountains, it really is a wonderful getaway and a real throwback to some of the earliest towns in Southern California, in Orange County, right here at Silverado Canyon.
So we're here at the Modjeska House in Modjeska Canyon, and we could talk a lot about Madam Helena Modjeska, but property was originally owned by a Joseph Edward Pleasance, also known as Judge Pleasance, and then he sold it to Madam Modjeska, and then she hired Stanford White to be the architect who then built the home or designed the home behind us. And she decided to move to Newport Beach, Balboa Island, but eventually the house was purchased in 1923 by your great-great-grandfather, CJ, and his wife, Carrie.
That's correct.
And obviously you weren't around when they bought the house, but I think they owned it for what? 63 years or...
For a great deal of time, that's true.
And so this was like your family retreat for generations. And you are Dan Walker, the great-grandson, and I want to thank you for being with us today.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invite. It's such a joyous day just to look at all of the property and to see it again and to see all the changes that have taken place since my memory is only of when I was younger. Or I was here during single-digit years and double-digit years. I was here and I got to enjoy it all the way up into my 20s. My parents were Ken Walker, who was my father, and then my grandfather, Gus Walker, was the third child of CJ and Carrie Dean. For sure, the comments that I can remember are from Gus Walker as he would be around me or be amongst us. And he talked about how all the trees were put in by Carrie D, and that she enjoyed doing various things throughout the landscaping. When I came in the property on the far end, I identified with the cypress that was there and how tall the cypress was, and that was another thing planted by her, and now that's considered one of the tallest cypress in the county. Oh my goodness. Across from the cypress is the swimming pool, You spoke a little bit about the swimming pool. Not everybody knows the swimming pool is there. I referred to it as always very cold when we were allowed to swim in it. And of course, they would have to treat the pool and treat the water and get it ready for swimming. And we would enjoy it during the summer months that we were here. One of my regular memories that I have with my cousin is we used to go out there. This is the north end of the property, correct? And we used to have to go up to the wild bird sanctuary.
Tucker.
So that was always something
Yeah.
that we walked up to because we were so interested in the hummingbirds that they had flying about in that bird sanctuary.
So C.J. Walker was the founder of Farmers and Merchants Bank,
Long Beach?
and it is still a family-owned bank. Is that correct?
That's correct. Currently, I'm chairman of the board, and my brother is CEO of the bank. It's a pleasure that we have very much. We get to enjoy the bank, get to enjoy its size. It's grown a great deal since CJ started it, for sure. He left the bank when he was 68 years old, or passed away when he was 68 years old.
Mm.
That would have been 1938. And at that point, he went ahead and let my grandfather, Gus Walker, become the president of the bank. So that's what he did in 1938 or 1937 as he was going through that process.
And a very difficult time economically as you were going through the
Oh, my
Great
goodness.
Depression.
You remember it well. I'm
Yeah,
not saying you were alive then.
no.
You
But in
remember.
1935, this building was made a California Historical State Landmark.
Oh, gracious.
So you weren't there then, but Gus would have been. There must have been a ceremony of some sort.
You would expect so, that there was, and something that was very much enjoyed. One memory I have as I look out at the redwood, I see a squirrel coming down off the redwood. One memory that was put into my head is the zoo that was here,
Oh my.
and that was done by my great-grandfather, C.J. Walker and Carrie B.
So that would kind of make this like a Hearst Castle, because Randolph Hearst also had a zoo, right?
I don't see that it's comparable.
Oh, well,
by any means.
kind of a famous place with Madame Modjeska was a pretty big deal in her time. She was a famous actress, and she, even had sponsorships for products she was doing. So she was making a reasonable income. So to support a nice place like this. It's known as Arden. Did you have your own name or did you use Arden?
We just used Modjeska,
Modjeska.
and that was the name that I was always given as a young person. So if we were going to Modjeska, then we were going.
How often?
It would be a weekend travel more than anything else, but it wouldn't be every weekend. But you might enjoy yourself up here half a dozen times a year. That would be what we did. And we came up as the family grew. We came up and as what they did.
So you had big picnics.
The picnics were something that were greatly enjoyed, and then my grandfather Gus Walker decided to do what they call picnics for all of the employees. So he would actually invite all of the employees of the bank up here for one day. He would serve over in this area. He'd bring in the caterer, and the caterer would set up and serve. And one of the biggest favorites of the day was the strawberries and ice cream at the end of the day. So that was always one of the enjoyments. And of course, that was such a family treat for us to be able to do that. So that was something that was fun. I remember a big lawn being here just outside of us, where they've covered it up, where the trees are, and so forth. And the reason I remember the big lawn is because we would bring in folks with puppets and so forth, and there'd always be a show for everybody. Everybody would come and sit down and enjoy the big show. I can remember over on this side a volleyball court, So volleyball was something that was
Great.
played quite often. My grandfather Gus, who was born, of course, in '99. If you can, it's hard to imagine in '99, no automobiles, no something specific, but carriages and horses were something that was very big. And I can remember him having carriages come in as we would park everybody out by the pool or the back piece of the property, and then drive them in a carriage and bring them here, turn the carriage around, and they would go back out. So that was always a treat that was done during that time. I remember that CJ enjoyed dogs very much, or enjoyed doing different things with animals, and dogs was one of his treats, and he loved Great Danes. So he actually had 10 Great Danes here on the property at one time. So now you speak about the surrounding folks might have been a bit aggressive or something like that. I don't think with the Great Danes that they were very aggressive at all, that they learned very quickly that the dogs controlled the property.
And Carrie planted the redwood trees that are here.
I believe the redwood trees were planted by Carrie D.
And what do you think now?
I think they're beautiful trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've grown well, and it's true that they take a lot of water, but thank goodness it rains up here plenty. So those redwood trees can get life and have matured well.
And we are blessed that this location and the canyon has avoided wildfires. But there have been wildfires nearby and around. And the last time I was here for a long visit, there had just been a wildfire, and the property was loaded with deer, just trying to find a refuge from everything that had just occurred.
From everything that they were hiding out. So
Yeah, needed a...
wonderful that would be.
You almost would thought that was part of the show, but they were just I think more in shock than anything.
I can only remember that we've had one marriage actually take place up here. Aunt Beverly, who has passed away now, was actually married on the property. She and my Uncle Joseph were actually married. McLaughlin were married on the property. That was a big day, a big event. If you can imagine trying to get this property ready for just that event. That in itself was something that was great. If you can imagine further, you get the invitation, and the invitation invites you to the property. So I mean, now to get the property ready for food service and different events for the wedding and focus, and just for folks to travel here, oh my gosh, I can imagine.
Need a bus.
How much pressure there was.
Yeah.
Not sure the buses were available that day, but in that point was it. It makes me think back. Nice of you to drive memories to me. I can remember back when CJ purchased the property, that it would take a whole day for them to drive from Long Beach in a car, who knows what it was, but to drive in a car and to come to the property. I can't suspect they stayed for the weekend. They might have stayed for 2 or 3 days or 4 days or something of that nature, and then to drive home. A whole day's travel to just come from Long Beach to here. I came from Long Beach here this afternoon, thank you for the phone call and direction, in just 1 hour.
Yeah.
It took them a whole day. And then, of course, they had to plan on flat tires and different objectives in order to get here. So that itself was something of great hazard, if you wish to say, just to get to the property and to enjoy this beautiful property.
Arden comes from the Shakespearean play As You Like It. So, As You Like It, it seems like an appropriate title for your retreat. You have any closing thoughts at all, or?
Well, I think some of the fun things that if you don't get pictures of it, you should maybe take pictures of you're not allowed in the house today, but if you get a chance to get in the house. There's actually one pole just inside the front door to the left. And everybody was charged to sign the pole. So all of the Walker family, somewhere around the pole, have signed it, and that was supposedly your height, because as a young boy, you can only reach up so high and sign your name. And so you put your name on the pole and put the date, and that's how we recorded the times that we were here during that 63 years that you remembered.
Super. Well, let me thank the Walker family for providing Arden for the citizens of Orange County to enjoy. And let me wish you 4 to 8 to 16 more generations of success for Farmers and Merchants Bank. Thank you very much, Dan.
Thank you very much. One of the last events that we had here was the caterers for the meal, late lunch meal and strawberry shortcake and so forth. They forgot to come. They got the wrong date. Oh my gosh. So here I am with 50, 60 families, mom, dad, children, so forth, all here. And my father is trying to figure out, oh my gosh, how do we prepare, or how do we take care of everybody? So ultimately what they did was they called Knott's Berry Farm.
Okay.
And at Knott's Berry Farm, they actually had a dinner going that evening, but they figured that they could take this entire group in and serve them a late lunch. So the chicken and the berry pie.
Yeah, boysenberry pie.
And
Yeah.
the rhubarb.
Rhubarb.
Was of course served.
Yeah.
And that was all preset or pre-ordered for everybody. And you get mashed potatoes and one little dish of vegetables, and that was what the meal was for the day. So that was one of the big events.
I'll be Cordelia Knott saved the day.
Yeah, it saved the day.
Knott's
Although
chicken dinner.
That was the last time that we were here.
Yeah.
For that.
And there was
particular
phone service here. That was good too.
How that ever happened, I don't know.
Yeah.
It wasn't cell or mobile service.
Right.
Not at all.
Right.
It was for sure pick up your phone,
Yeah.
dial your numbers, and away you would go. You asked earlier about water supply.
Right.
And I said that there was one well that we had, and that was over here at the front of the house in relationship to having water supply. There was a well that was dug at one point over here. So that's where the water supply came from. But I always knew that we had just running water. It was very important that we took care of the house and took care of everything that was inside the house. And that everything was just sort of under protection. We wanted to make sure that the home itself was something that was cared for and taken care of, and that it would be here for another generation or 2 or 3 or whatever we could create.
On the front porch of the Modjeska House, through the palms and trees, one views Flores Peak. I had the privilege to hike up Flores Peak recently with the Orange County Historical Society. It has a long, steady climb, beautiful view on the west side, but on the east side is a sheer cliff. News traveled from San Juan Capistrano up to the county seat, the city of Los Angeles, that Juan Flores and his band of outlaws, known as the Manillas, or the Handcuffs, were roughing up the town. The Los Angeles County Sheriff, the second to hold the position, put together a small posse and headed south for the long trek. Near where the 405 San Diego Freeway and the Laguna Canyon Road, number 133, intersect, Juan Flores ambushed the sheriff and his posse, killing him and 3 others. The location is on the San Diego Creek Trail and commemorated with California State Historical Landmark number 218. Another posse was sent out, including General Andres Pico, and they chased Juan Flores up into the Santa Ana Mountains. The murdering outlaws went up what is now Modjeska Canyon, scurrying up the peak in front of
what is now known as the Madame Modjeska home, which is California Landmark 205. After reaching the top, they found the other side was a high and steep cliff and were captured there on what is now known as Flores Peak, California Historical Landmark 225.
In January of 1857, there was a bandit who was causing trouble in San Juan Capistrano. The second sheriff for Los Angeles County, James Barton, decided to come south because Orange County, San Juan Capistrano, was still part of LA County. We did not become a separate county until 1889.
Right.
He came down with a small posse to see what was going on. He was told along the way, you better get some more guys. This bandit, Juan Flores, has a lot of members in his gang, but he didn't. He kept going, and right real close to what is now the Irvine Spectrum is Barton's Mound, or a little hill here by the 133 and the 405.
Side is still there.
Still there, and he was ambushed, and he was murdered by Juan Flores. So today we've had fun checking out the history of Juan Flores, the history of James Barton, the history of Helena Modjeska.
Town of Silverado. Oh, I just was kind of moving through and found some cool sites there. The last grizzly bear we talked about earlier, but this is an interesting plaque. This is a fairly new plaque.
This was just put up by LA Sheriff. In fact, Sheriff Luna was here in April of 2024 to dedicate the plaque, and it was also sponsored by the city of Irvine. So Councilmember Mike Carroll was also present for the ceremony.
Well worth coming out, and not far from here. We're right by where Lion Country Safari used to be, and there's also a marker where you can stand there and you're right in front of the tree where Fraser the lion is laid to rest.
Just down the trail is the Lion Country Safari plaque.
This is a great one, great way to kind of wrap up today. And it's fun to explore, obviously, Silverado, Modjeska, and also find this one here. It kind of ties in with some of the death theme that you touched upon earlier with Flores and all of that. So,
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, we've had fun. There's plenty to do in the Santa Ana Mountains, thanks to the Irvine Company that gave 20,000 acres when I was a supervisor. But there's plenty to go and see. There's good history, Modjeska, Silverado, Black Star Canyon. So please, have fun in Orange County.